Mr. Keenan, you teach at Tulane,
Yes, sir, I do. I have that privilege.
and you have your own website, KeenanClimate.com, is that right?
Yes, sir, I do.
Okay. And you describe yourself on your website as a globally recognized thought leader. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you give paid speeches, do you?
On occasion, I do.
You have your own agent, I believe, according to your website, Lee Bureau.
This is correct.
And how much do you charge per speech?
It varies depending on the audience, the amount of preparation work that goes, and the amount of follow-through. Usually,
The last paid speech you gave, how much did you receive?
I'm happy to follow up on it.
You don't remember?
I do not.
Do you give that money to Tulane?
I do not.
You keep it?
Yes, this is outside of my capacity as a professor.
Right.
As is
Now,
standard course.
you recently sent a letter you recently joined a lot of other academics. You signed a letter demanding that elite institutions and universities stop accepting money from fossil fuel companies. Is that correct?
This is correct.
You consider Tulane an elite university?
I would like to think that we have a high standard of excellence in our education and our research.
Okay. Well, the Murphy family of Murphy Oil and the Deming family of Murphy Oil have recently given Tulane $25 million. You think, have you called on Tulane to give that money back?
Well, it's not, they didn't give that money to my unit or the department or school that I work in.
Have you called on Tulane to give that money back, or you think that's okay for them to keep it?
It's their prerogative, not mine.
Okay. But yet you just signed a letter saying that all elite universities should refuse fossil fuel money. Did you put a footnote in there and say, except my own?
Well, what I'd like to say, Senator, is that I believe it raises a conflict of interest for those that research climate change that are supported by the fossil fuel
Yeah,
industry.
but then why don't you ask Tulane to give the $25 million back?
Well, I think in the context, if that money were to be used to support climate research, information, disinformation, or whatever it may be, then that may be an appropriate conflict of interest. But I think in the context of which
You don't see the hypocrisy here?
it is a hypocrisy in those that may read and interpret it as such.
Maybe it's like Washington. If there weren't double standards, there wouldn't be standards at all. Let me ask you this. You also participated in another article here criticizing Houston for building new buildings and McMansions. And you said, I'm going to read your quote. I don't want to misquote you, Professor. That means we have to change our consumer preferences. You could have a super efficient, energy efficient mega mansion in Houston or the suburbs, but it's still a mansion. You're still over-consuming space. Did you say that?
Yes, sir. That's based on work as a member of the IPCC. Our research suggested that reducing our footprint in terms of total spatial footprint would have significant impacts on the decarbonization of the built environment.
And so you're saying that people should live in smaller houses because larger houses contribute to CO2 emissions?
100%, Senator.
Okay. Well, recently, Tulane finished the Commons. It was 77,000 square feet, $55 million. Recently, Tulane finished the Gold Ring Woldenberg Business Complex, $35 million to complete, 92,000 square feet. Boy, that's a McMansion. Mustapher Hall, 23,000 square feet. Paul Hall, 36,000 square feet. Richardson Hall, 50,000 square feet. Housing redevelopment phase 1, 230,000 square feet at Tulane. Have you called upon Tulane to stop these buildings?
Sir,
So again, I want to go back to my opening remarks. I want to talk about some of the lack of transparency and just say, Secretary, number one, can you direct me to your website, your landing page, your about your office section, mission statement section of your website?
Well, I have a
State.gov / whatever.
I can direct you to the CN, the congressional notice, which had a very detailed chart that I have here, which lays
But
out
every
our office.
consular, every bureau, they have a website, tells about their mission statement, everything. Do you have that at state? Because I couldn't, honestly, myself and my staff, we couldn't find that.
Well, we certainly have location.
If y'all find it, get it to us.
We use
Love
the
to have
State.
it.
We use the State Department website.
So you use the states, but you don't have your own landing page on state that says about you, your mission statement, you name it.
We
Check. I want to move on to some other levels of just what's going on with the hierarchy in your office. As I said, 2021 FOIA request. Your office replied that you wouldn't get back to it until about 2024. It's 2023. We'd like a few answers. Now, I'm not going to ask for every one of these, but I would love to know the names of the individuals that actually answer to you. Who are the ones that directly answer to you so we can know a little bit about your office? And then we'll give this chart to somebody in your office, and maybe they can fill out the rest of the names while you're here answering questions for us. It would be very helpful. Who is your deputy envoy for climate?
I have two deputies, and they are well known. They're very experienced people, Rick Duke and Sue Biniaz. But I'm not going to go through all the
Rick
names
Duke
here.
and who?
Mr. Chairman, Sue Biniaz, who's one of the most experienced negotiators in the world.
Is
Mr. Chairman,
your
let me just say to you,
principal deputy?
Mr. Chairman, I'm not going to fill them in here in this way because that would be a violation of our process within the State Department.
You're not going to tell us who's
I'm not
working
going to
in your
go
office.
through them by name because that is not the required process of the State Department.
Who's the principal deputy for climate in your office?
As I just said to you, Mr. Chairman,
Who's the chief of staff?
I am going to go through the normal process. Now, an algorithm kicked out that date, the one you're referring to.
I'm not going to
a
argue
human
about
being.
it, Mr. Kerry, Secretary Kerry. I'm not going to argue about it. You said you're not going to answer. You're not going to answer. It's par for the course.
No, I'm
like
going
I
to
said, there
answer
was a
through
FOIA
the
request.
process.
2021 said it wasn't going to be answered until 2024. I'm not going to spend my time arguing about it. You said you're not going to answer now.
Mr. Chairman,
I'll
don't
accept
just
it.
cut me off. What I'm trying to do is tell you I'm going to follow the process of the State Department, which is normally followed. Where there are circumstances requiring that someone know who the person is, the State Department has complied and done that.
Every office,
Where
every
there is
consular,
not a
every bureau,
requirement
they have a
that they-
hierarchy. You
where
go
there
into
is
a
not a
military base,
requirement-
it says Joe Biden, it says the secretaries, it says there's a hierarchy. This is standard practice for government.
We
I'm not gonna
have
argue that it's
presented
not standard
with the
practice. You've been it
congressional
long enough.
notification
I want to
the
point another
creation of
arrow on
this
my chart
office.
here, Mr. Secretary.
We
Can you just help us
presented
out?
that
Do
answer.
you answer to the executive office of the president, or do you answer to Secretary Blinken? Because I have emails
I
from
directly directly to the President of the United States, but
directly
with-
to the president.
That is correct, but with Secretary Blinken, completely informed and aware of everything that
But
we're
you don't answer to Blinken. Thank you. It's good. We just need to know for basic levels of transparency and understanding how this works. I want to go to a couple of questions on policy. It was said by my colleague, global problems require global commitments. And I want to go to some of the global commitments that you might be looking at in COP28 that were looked at in COP27. And I want to understand if you're committing the United States of America to these policies or yes or not. I'm going to just let you know these are simple yes or no questions. I know you've researched them well. I've researched them well. We don't need an explanation of them here. So just number one, cross-border carbon trading. Are you planning at COP28 to commit, this is the number one issue there along with climate reparations, do you plan to commit America to cross-border carbon trading, as my colleague put it, in global commitments?
There's no current proposal or plan that's been agreed to which would require us to do that.
Do you plan on working on a global plan for cross-border carbon trading?
We're exploring with a lot of countries what the various approaches might be, and President Biden has charged us to examine cross-border adjustment mechanisms in order to understand how we can deal with the question of very carbon-intensive produced goods coming into our country, where our folks are trying to reduce emissions.
I'll put yes, but say it's a maybe because you didn't answer concretely affirmatively. I'm going to ask one more question.
Well, then
though,
you make this a
in my
game.
time.
If you're turning that into yes when I didn't say yes, you're playing games.
You
Mr.
said it's
Chairman.
a maybe. You didn't say no.
I
You
didn't.
say-
Well, why don't you create a maybe and put it up there?
Next time I will create a maybe. We'll put it in yellow. We'll put the yes in green and the no in red, and we'll put a maybe in yellow. Next time we'll do that. I do want to get to one last question. I'll give you a little extra time, Ranking Member, and that's on this one because I know it's another major priority for COP, and that is, are you planning to commit America to climate reparations? That is to say, we have to pay some other country because they had a flood or they had a hurricane or a typhoon or a
No,
wildfire.
under no circumstances.
Very good.